The city looked different at night. You know how some places just come alive after dark? Well, this one felt ... wrong. It wasn't just the neon lights painting the wet asphalt or the distant wail of a siren. It was the people, or what I thought were people. I'd moved here for a job, a fresh start. The rent was suspiciously cheap for a downtown loft, but I was too excited to question it. My first few days were normal. I explored cafes, got lost in the labyrinth of streets, and settled into my new routine. But then I started noticing things. The late-night grocery store was always packed, but the checkout lines were silent, filled with shoppers who had an odd pallor and eyes that seemed to track my every move. They never bought garlic or anything with silver packaging. Weird, right? My neighbor, a guy named Julian, was the first one to really set off alarm bells. He was impossibly charming, with a voice as smooth as velvet and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He only ever came out at night. He'd knock on my door around midnight, asking to borrow a cup of sugar or just to chat. His skin was always cold, even on the warmest nights. One evening, I invited him in for a drink. He politely refused, saying he was on a special diet. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. Things escalated when my cat, Mittens, disappeared. She loved my balcony, but she never strayed. I put up flyers, called the shelters, everything. A week later, I found her collar tucked neatly under my doormat. No note, no explanation, just the collar. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing scratching at my window, 3 floors up. I started doing some research online, digging into the city's history. Buried in old newspaper archives, I found stories, unexplained disappearances, mysterious anemia, plague in the 1920s, local cult with strange nocturnal rituals. The articles were dismissed as sensationalism, but a pattern was emerging. Every few decades, the same stories resurfaced. The population would dip and then strangely recover, with an influx of new residents who kept to themselves and preferred the night. One night, I followed Julian. I know, stupid, but I had to know. He walked with an unnatural grace, melting into the shadows. He led me to a part of town I'd never seen, an old industrial district with decaying warehouses. He slipped into one without a sound. I crept to a grimy window and peered inside. My blood ran cold. The warehouse was cavernous, and it was filled with them. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them. They weren't just pale. Their skin was almost translucent under the dim lights. They moved with a predatory stillness. Their conversations were low, guttural hisses I couldn't understand. Julian was there, talking to a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a Victorian painting. And then he turned his head and looked directly at the window, directly at me. He smiled that same empty smile, but this time I saw the glint of his teeth. They were too long, too sharp. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life. I didn't stop until I was back in my apartment. The door bolted, furniture pushed up against it. My heart was a drum against my ribs. It wasn't a cult. It wasn't a special diet. They were vampires. The whole city was their feeding ground. The cheap rent, the nocturnal neighbors, the silent grocery store shoppers, ... It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. I packed a bag in a blind panic, throwing in whatever I could grab. Clothes, my laptop, passport. I had to get out. As I was about to leave, there was a soft knock on my door. Everything all right in there? It was Julian's voice, smooth and calm, but with an edge I hadn't noticed before. You seem ... distressed. I held my breath, staying completely silent. Another knock, louder this time. I know you're in there. We just want to talk. We hate to see our neighbors leave so ... abruptly. It's considered rude in our community. His voice dropped to a near whisper. And we don't like rude people. The doorknob started to jiggle. Then came a splintering sound as the lock began to give way. I didn't have another exit. The only way out was the window and the fire escape. I scrambled onto the rusty platform, my bag slung over my shoulder. As I looked down the alley, I saw figures emerging from the shadows below, their faces turned up towards me. Their eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. They were waiting. I glanced back at my apartment door. It burst open. Julian stood there, his charm gone, replaced by a mask of cold hunger. He wasn't smiling anymore. Leaving so soon, he hissed. The entire city is their hunting ground, and I was the new game. The cheap rent isn't a bargain, it's bait. Every friendly nocturnal neighbor, every silent passerby on the street after midnight ... They're all part of it. This isn't just a city full of vampires. This city is a vampire, and it's always thirsty. I'm telling you this from a bus station 3 states away, and I'm still looking over my shoulder. I don't think I'll ever stop. So, if you ever find a place that seems too good to be true, with neighbors who only come out at night ... just run. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It means a lot to share this. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more tales from the dark, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Stay safe out there.